It's Andrew with Career Happy Hour. It's Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Wherever you're joining from, we're streaming today on Instagram. We're also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, all simultaneously, if you can believe that. 3 o'clock Pacific time every Friday, we have Career Happy Hour. What is this? This is an opportunity for you to have a community, a place where you can go and hear some perspective, share some thoughts or ideas, connect with people. This is a community. I do this every Friday as a community service, just a way for me to give back to the community that's helped me so much. So if that's you, then certainly I thank you for being here. We do have some ground rules. If you have a question related to career, whether that's finding a job, getting a promotion, interviewing, whatever it looks like, if you're kind of stuck in career neutral, or you're trying to understand how things are going to go forward with the pandemic or what have you, any of those questions are fair game, and you can put those in the comments regardless of which platform you're joining from. In the live stream, there's a chat box typically that you'll see. So please put your questions in there. I'm happy to answer anything I can regarding those ideas. I'd also encourage you to share this out with your networks. If you have someone that you think might benefit from what we are going to be talking about today, the topic is, I can't believe I didn't get the job. I can't believe I didn't get the job. So that's kind of what we're talking through today. Have some thoughts, some ideas on that, especially in today's market. You would presume that everybody who interviews for a job is going to get the job. That's not been my experience, at least not recently, with those that I coach and in my personal search. You know, as a career coach, I think it's important that you try to use the skills or the tools that you encourage others to use to find employment. Because if you don't, then you don't know what it's like anymore. You get so far separated from what career coaching is all about that you forget how challenging it can be to do what you're suggesting other people do. So I'm the type of person that occasionally I like to eat my own dog food, as they say, and use some of these tools, these techniques myself to see which ones get good results and which ones maybe don't. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But please share the broadcast out with your networks. I would be happy to expand this particular broadcast to other people. Why? Because it's an opportunity for us to collaborate. And one of the promises that we make to each other in this particular community is that if somebody reaches out to you through this forum, because you've put your LinkedIn profile in the chat. So if you are on Instagram or Twitter or what have you, doesn't really matter where you're joining, put your LinkedIn profile link in there, because that's where many people do their professional networking. That's the actual place that we'll be sharing that information. Now, I understand some of you may not have a LinkedIn profile, but most of my followers are connections on LinkedIn. So that's not anything new for me, but it might be a new person in our community that doesn't yet have a LinkedIn profile. We'd certainly encourage you to get one. Also, if you're interested, you can come on live or request to come on live, and I will provide you hands-on career coaching right now. It's no obligation on your side to do that. But if you want some hands-on support, you have a specific question or challenge you're working through, then by all means, come on live and we'll work through it together. You can use the link in the description. I will also see if I can place this link. Let's see, excuse me, that's the wrong link. I'll copy this link and I will go over to my LinkedIn profile here, and let's see, I will put it in the chat of the LinkedIn live session. Good. Let me see what I come up with here. If I can find the notifications, there we go. So that you can have an easier way to get into the back end and get some live hands-on coaching by me. So if that's you, then certainly join me live for hands-on career coaching now. Okay, there we go. And then I'll put that same link into the restream portal that will allow me to chat cross-platform. Let me see here. Let's do that one. Okay, good. So we're in there. Instagram, I haven't figured you out yet, but I'm broadcasting on Instagram through my mobile device. So by all means, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in there. I'll look up and see if there's any comments when that does happen. And then I will also tag that to my featured on the Instagram profile. So if you want to visit me there, you can. It's at Branding Dynamo. That's the handle I have on almost all my social networks. So the other part of this is if you want to share something that you maybe are keeping confidential, you can do that. Just click the link for the live coaching. Don't put your name in there. Just put in anonymous. Don't turn on your camera or anything. And then there is a private chat on the back end of Restream where you and I can chat that way. You can put your question in there, and that would then be something that is private betwixt you and me. So that's our setup for today. Of course, put any questions that you have in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer those. So the feeling I'm having today is, how do you respond? How do you respond when you're denied a job? When you just, you looked at this job, you felt, hey, you know what? I could do this job with excellence. I know I could do this job. And I'm kind of the person that I think I could do pretty much any job that I put my mind to. And certainly I'm not going to go for jobs outside my area of expertise or an area where I don't think I can add value. But for all of those areas where I can add value or I have expertise, I feel like there's no job that I couldn't do. And when I go through a hiring process and it turns out that I don't get that job, I'm rather puzzled. And so there's a lot of ways that we can respond when that happens. And it started to dawn on me again, and I should, it's not anything new for the advice I give my clients. It's just a little bit easier to give the advice than to take it yourself. I will admit that to me is the easier part of it. But it dawned on me that perception is everything. Perception is everything. And it, as much as you want to think that you are the chosen candidate, you could do that job with excellence, it may turn out that you're not. And it's okay. It's okay. I have to say that to myself just as much as I do to you. It's okay if you're not the chosen candidate. It doesn't feel good, but it's okay. And once we accept that it's okay, we then can heal from that experience, and we can see how we can do things better. We can do things better. So if we look at it from that perspective, that perception is everything. Whose perception matters? Who's in a hiring process? Now, I'm not suggesting you take a job or pursue opportunities where you're not of value in that conversation. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I am suggesting is that the perception that matters is the person on the hiring team. Their perception of you matters. And you don't always know what that perception is. And when you walk into an interview, they may already have identified a preferred candidate. They may have just interviewed 5 or 6 candidates, and they know who's on the short list, and they're comparing you to that person, the one that they would consider their preferred candidate. It's not uncommon that would happen, but let's admit that there is bias in a hiring process. Doesn't matter what kind of bias it is, there is bias. And as much as organizations say they're not biased and they are after equal employment opportunity and diversity, equity, and inclusion, all these things, it's not a perfect process by any means. And companies make mistakes, and perception is their reality. If I can remember that their perception is their reality, I can then work within that reality to influence my candidacy. Now, that doesn't mean if they have an ideal or preferred candidate that they haven't already made a decision. And that is something you can discern just through the interview process quickly. How quickly are they moving you through the process, and how few questions may they be asking you, and how do they respond when you give an answer? Are they even really engaged? And that's a telltale sign, right? If the interviewer just isn't engaged and they already have somebody, now that you potentially could be the compliance candidate, right? The one that's filling in their dance card, so to speak. Because here's the thing. is that if you recognize that there's a chosen candidate, there's nothing that you can say or do in the interview that's going to change that fact. Now, what would change that fact from a hiring team perspective for me as a candidate is that they just tell me. But, we can't open any cans of worms that might lead to a potential for conflict of interest or in some cases, a risk. Risk is something that drives a lot of hiring processes. And I think it's a tragedy that we can't be honest with the hiring, with the candidates that we're interviewing or hiring. I think it's important that we're honest, truthful, and diplomatic all at the same time. And so what do you do if there is an ideal candidate or a preferred candidate? Sometimes you just can't change it. But there is something you can do to level up. And that is, if I'm going into an interview and I'm not the chosen candidate, right? I know for a fact that I'm coming into this. This is the first time I'm meeting that hiring team. I don't know them very well. They don't know me very well. I'm coming in kind of flat-footed, right? I don't really know what they're looking for in this position. Then I might be at a disadvantage for sure. And being at a disadvantage, what that does is it entices me or encourages me to prepare that interview at a higher level. And if I prepare at the highest level possible, the person who knows they're the chosen candidate may not perform well in that interview. And that opens the door for me to at least have a chance at the next round. And so when I go into an interview or I'm coaching somebody to go into an interview and I'm not confident that I'll at least be on the finals list, the final 2 or 3 candidates, then you have to prepare like this thing is the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is coming up in a few weeks. It's the best of the best in football. It's the World Series. It's the World Cup Finals. It's the championship of your career. If I don't approach the interview that way, there's no chance for me getting that opportunity. And this is important because not always do we have choice in the employers that we select. There may be an employer we prefer to work for, and we may try hard as we can to get into that organization. Don't ever quit, by the way, because success is always one step after you quit. It's interesting how it works, but keep working at it. If there's a company you want to work for, keep going for it. But the idea here is if there's an organization that I want to work for and I know I'm not that preferred candidate, I need to prepare like crazy. Like this is the last job on earth. And I'll make a decision whether or not I want that job after I get an offer. See, now I'm setting an expectation, a higher expectation of myself and my performance and my preparation and my practice. Much higher goal for myself than that sort of thing. So that's the first side of it. When I'm going to an interview and I know I'm not that person, then I have to prepare like it's the Super Bowl. And now, what about when you get to the point where it's like, hey, I can't believe I didn't get that job. I wasn't chosen. And what's your initial response to that? Because I've gotten some of those notifications recently, and so those I've been coaching, and that is, hey, at first you feel sad, disappointed, and then you might feel angry. You go through all those stages of grief again, like this was like you lost a loved one. And truthfully, this is just an interview. It doesn't even, you don't even, in many ways, have a relationship with that group yet. You haven't really invested a whole lot of time. Now, it's different if you have and you just performed poorly, then you can say, okay, I can see why they hired that other person. They're equally as qualified and I just didn't perform very well. We can fix that, right? We can fix that. But the idea here is it's very normal, very natural after you get a notification that you weren't the chosen candidate to come with anger, resentment. Why did you pick that person and not me, right? It's the old, how would you say it? Schoolyard tussle with your emotions. And it's not uncommon that you may feel compelled to let that come out in front of a hiring team. And I almost made that mistake this week, to be honest, when a hiring team told me they weren't moving forward. And, it took, several weeks for them to give me that information. And I wasn't very pleased with the experience as a candidate. And I was going to let them know how disappointed I was. And all that would do is serve to support their disappointment in me. And I had to hit the delete key and delete that email, right? And start over. And I asked myself a question. How do I want these people to remember me moving forward? What reputation do I want them to take forward about me in their daily walk? And I decided in that particular case to actually send them a career map that shows, hey, this is where I've been. It's a visual type of thing. And so I said, thanks again for the interview. Here's just a graphic, a career map on the types of things I'm interested or looking for. If there's other opportunities, I'm all ears. I look forward to hearing in the announcement about the person you did select. So I just left that door open, and I left a feeling. The response I got was a feeling of graciousness. Right? This person took from that correspondence and my interaction with them very gracious, understanding. That is worth an unbelievable amount of cachet to my reputation, to have somebody think of me as gracious, and to remove those emotions. Although they were still there, I just needed a way to process them, and I did. I processed them in a capacity where, I shouldn't have engaged in that way. But I did that through the process of formatting an email like I was going to give them my what for. And I'm glad that I didn't. And I'm glad I took a step to come with something a little more productive. So that's what I had to share today. Certainly, there's a lot going on in the marketplace. The stock market was pretty volatile this week. There's inklings that we're going to see some inflation, and this is certainly going to have an impact on the jobs market. So even though the market is good now, there's certainly a chance that inflation could create an issue in the jobs market, the housing market, and just about every market you can imagine. So good. Lived that recently. Good, Jeannie. So I guess I'm not the only one, eh? I'm not the only one that has lived this kind of experience. And as much as you think you are the ideal candidate and you could do that job with excellence, in your heart that that's true, that doesn't mean that that's the perception that interview team, that hiring team has of you. So that said, looks like there's somebody here in the green room. Let me just send a real quick text message. Do you have a question, or do you want to come on live? Good. So I'll just put that up there. Sometimes, if people haven't been into the green room before, they don't know that there's something there. Nothing on my friends here on Instagram just yet. So good, Jeannie. I mean, if you have a question, or if anybody else out there has a question, please put that in the comments box, the chat, and just say, hey, it could be about your career, interviewing, professional networking, negotiations, personal branding, resume, if you must. LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn since 2004. And some would call me a subject matter expert in LinkedIn. So if you have questions about LinkedIn, I'm excited to do that. Occasionally, we'll do a profile review. We'll go through and review somebody's profile, give some feedback. So if you want to share your LinkedIn profile in the chat, I'm happy to do that. Occasionally, that's kind of fun. We just go through somebody's profile and take a peek at that. I'm going to switch gears here, and I'm going to go into the homepage of LinkedIn and see what kind of news stories are top of mind right now that I can maybe share or provide some insights on. But I would certainly be engaged, even if you are working, be engaged in some purposeful networking process, whether that's with an individual directly. If someone asks, do your best to say yes. I'm trying to get better at that too, right? There's a lot of people that reach out to me and they're trying to sell me things, and I'm not really excited. Not really excited about responding to them positively and saying yes. But there are other people that reach out to me. It's kind of unsure what their motivations are, but they seem like decent people, and I will go ahead and say yes. So let's see here. Cry fell, peacock lost more, wages climb, inflation climbs. Yeah, so I mean that's I don't know that that's something that's sustainable. Inflation, raising inflation and raising wages and benefits. Yeah, I mean that's going to impact profits at some point, and companies will have to make some adjustments, either raise their prices or in some way look at their operations differently and find ways to save some money. Let's see here. The best and worst of U.S. Airlines, Home Depot names new CEO. Well, that's interesting. It's also a thing in here on Lowe's. Lowe's going to the dogs. Let's see. Tapped a veteran executive to become CEO, president, and chief operating officer, Ted Decker. Okay. And then it says Lowe's going to the dogs. That's interesting. He's making room in his carnivorous. Another big. Oh, Petco. Interesting. Okay. So there's a retailer, Petco, going to have space inside of the Lowe's stores. Oh, that's interesting. That's the areas of Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina. That's a good concept. I mean, I've seen these kind of concepts too with, I don't know if it was Target or Walmart and Toys R Us, right? Little concept stores inside of a store. So I don't know about that, but there's always market opportunity. You know, if you have expertise in logistics and supply chain, and you can bring two retailers together and roll out a solution like that, man, that is thinking outside the box for sure. Let me see here. Okay, so there was an anonymous question here. It says, I was recently let go from a pretty senior level consulting role, was not enough pipeline for executive coaching or leadership, but was there for 5 months. Should I even put them on my resume? Well, 5 months, no, you're not under obligation to put anything on your resume. So here's the challenge, is we need to remember what the resume is. It's a two-dimensional representation of your past that is intended to demonstrate qualification for employment. It's used primarily by talent acquisition teams to either filter in or filter out of a potential job requisition. Now, I'm oversimplifying, right? Some people put more stake in resume than others. I understand that, but everybody, just like everybody's got, anyway, an opinion about everything. Everybody is going to have a different opinion about the resume. And I would not depend on your resume to get you the work. It can help. It is a good marketing tool in some instances, but it's not the only tool. So there's an and there. There's resume and LinkedIn, resume and some networking. There's a lot of activities that you can do. So you're not obligated to put anything short tenure on your resume, but you will have to answer the question, why haven't you been working for the last 6, 8, 9 months? Oh, I took a contract role. In fact, you could call that a contract if you want to, because that's primarily what it was. But anyway, if you have additional context you want to give there, or you want some hands-on support, you're welcome to complete the coaching application on my LinkedIn profile. You can find it there, and we can schedule time to chat about that. Jeannie's got some comments here. Thank you, Jeannie. I found the current job I have so is not a right fit for me, and I found a company I really want to work for, and I went through 4 rounds with them earlier this year. Tried again just before Christmas and communicated my strong desire to join. And let's see. Others desires join them exclusively, only got 3 rounds. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, Jeannie, just to give you some encouragement, is that the best of the best in baseball They fail 7 times out of 10. 7 times, the best of the best in baseball fail 7 times out of 10. That puts them in the Hall of Fame. If they bat 300, they're in the Hall of Fame, right? And so keep at it. If it's a company you really want to work for, I would try to meet everybody at that company, from the custodian to the CEO. Doesn't matter. Whoever says yes, I'm going to have a conversation with them about their experience with the company, my desire to work there, any advice they'd have for me. What are some of the challenges they're facing, right? I would try to start building some more intimate relationships, not in a personal sense, right? But in a tangible sense with individuals at the company. The good news is you've been through now, 7 rounds of interviews. You've met a lot of people that you can follow up with, that you can come on maybe as a contractor. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, but the good news is you've had at least 7 network events and network conversations with individuals in a company that can make a decision on your candidacy or recommending you for an opportunity. So keep at it. Now, your follow-up question is, you asked the recruiter for feedback after she delivered the sad news that they didn't choose me for the next round. Now, it's been my experience, Jeannie, and take this for what it's worth, that they aren't going to give you the truth. They're going to give you a scripted response, because recruiters are trained to say, we found a candidate that better meet our needs, yada, 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 right? It's that same script that you get in the email. And certainly it's nice if you've been through 3 rounds of interviews that you actually get a phone call from somebody other than the recruiter to say, hey, Jeannie, I know you went through 4 rounds before and 3 rounds this time. We just had a dynamite candidate. I didn't want it to be secret, but I wanted you to know that we chose somebody else, and I encourage you to keep applying. I think you'd be a good fit here. We just don't have any bandwidth for budget or what have you. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if somebody was actually that transparent with you and the process they are going through and your status as a candidate? Yes, it would be wonderful. Muhammad put his LinkedIn profile in here. Muhammad, I don't know if you're just putting it in there as an indicator that you want to network with people here, because that's what we do, right? If you put your LinkedIn profile here, what you're signaling to everybody participating here is that you're open to networking, and you will say yes if you put your LinkedIn profile in there. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you want me to review your LinkedIn profile, I think we got a little bit of time. I could probably do that, but I don't want to do that unless you say it's okay. She encouraged me to try again in a year. Well, that's interesting. Why did they say a year? Most organizations have a 90-day, what do they call that? A probationary period. And the 90-day probationary period, they can terminate you for any reason if you don't work out. So I wouldn't say wait a year. You might wait a year to apply. That's fine. But I wouldn't wait a year to follow up with that hiring team or with that recruiter, because things change way faster than a year. This market is changing by the minute. They could have somebody give their notice tomorrow. And where will they be if that person gives notice and decides to go somewhere else? I just don't know what that means for you and for that particular organization. So I would certainly put that hiring team, the hiring manager, maybe even the recruiter, on some sort of regular follow-up. Not to just say, hey, I'm still interested in a job here. It's to say, hey, I saw this article. I thought it would be really apropos to what you're facing here. We had a good opportunity to interview, but I never got a chance to go on site or to get a tour of the office or to meet you in person. Would you be open to meeting in person for a coffee? Right? Just because I have a lot of interest in learning about your company, just as an informal way to learn more, right? I'm just looking to learn more. So don't let it wait. If it's something you're interested in, keep at it. Keep at it. And I haven't seen a response from Muhammad here, if Muhammad wants me to review his LinkedIn profile or not. So if you have questions, certainly put those in the chat. It doesn't matter what that question might be. You could put it in there, whether it's leadership or talent acquisition or recruiters, what have you. I'm open to answer any questions. The plight of unpaid Super Bowl what? Unpaid Super Bowl dancers? What? A Super Bowl is a moneymaker, and yet many of the dancers who formed during last year's halftime show were not paid. Well, I'm sure the weekend was paid. Anyway, technically volunteers, many were professional dancers who worked alongside the same choreography as paid performers. As paid performers, a group that received $712 on game day and $45 an hour for rehearsal time. Following outrage from the dance community, NFL said it would not ask professional dancers to work for free at this year's halftime show. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Well, it'll be interesting to see. The halftime show has gotten a lot of interest, at least by me. Some of the, some of the things that I've seen is, those artists at this year's halftime show for the Super Bowl are ones that I grew up with those in, high school, college, soon after college. So I it'll be interesting to see. Looks like I had a comment there. Well, I don't see any other questions. I'll go ahead and cut it short, but I did want to let you know next week, I did talk to Terry Smith, and we're going to do an update. He and I did a session, May of 2020 when the pandemic first started, and we made some predictions, or at least some, I don't know if you'd call them predictions, but we kind of rolled out some ideas, some thoughts about what was going to happen. And a lot of what we talked about came true. But there's some things we didn't anticipate would happen that, we could have talked about back then, but we didn't. And so maybe we just need to do an update on pandemic work from home and how to hire and recruit in that kind of setting from a candidate perspective and from a talent acquisition perspective. So Terry's got some great insights, and I think we might do that as a topic next week that Terry and I will co-host or co-present. All right, have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you for joining me today on Career Happy Hour, 3:00 Pacific time every Friday. I will be here when I'm humanly here and able to attend or don't have other obligations. So take care. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next Friday.